In Transit on this Monday morning takes a look at a question a lot of you probably have, especially those of you who are thinking, hey, I need to buy a new car. If you're facing that proposition, you need to buy a new car, and then you just want to make the right decision. You might be thinking about, well, geez, what is the better choice economically, right? Is it cheaper to run an electric vehicle than a gas one? You know, I hear it all the time. One of the common critiques of EVs is that they're priced out of reach. But a new study shows that may no longer be the case. Joanna Kyriazis is the head of Clean Transportation Canada. Joanna, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
So tell me, Joanna, what did your recent study find?
So Clean Energy Canada, we recently put out this study that aims to provide consumers with a clearer picture of just how affordable electric vehicles are. What we did was we took a number of popular electric car models in Canada, and then we compared them on a total cost of ownership basis with similar gas models. So we looked at purchase price, but we also looked at fuel costs, maintenance costs, insurance. And in every single comparison, we found that the electric car comes out cheaper than the gas alternative, often in the range of about $15,000 to $20,000 over about 8 years of ownership.
Okay, so we're talking about, so to get to that, which I think is quite a big number, $15,000 cheaper, you are looking at an 8-year ownership period. So tell me how the EV ends up winning out. Where I imagine obviously you're not paying for gas, that's a big thing, but how does it lead to a $15,000 advantage?
You're right. Refueling is going to be the biggest area of cost savings. So I think Canadians have a general sense that charging an electric vehicle is pretty affordable. I'm not sure how many people know just how cheap it is. So if you take an average electric car, let's say the 2022 Chevy Bolt, it gives you over 400 kilometers of range on a single charge. To charge that vehicle from empty to full, it will cost you between $5 and $13, depending on which province in Canada you live in. Mm-hmm. And Quebec has, some of the cheapest electricity prices out there, so you're going to be on the lower end of that. Now compare that to your last gas bill, right? This is how EV owners really end up coming out ahead.
Okay, so gas a big key here. Now, can I ask you, when you crunch the numbers, were you considering EV rebates that provinces offer? Here in Quebec, we're quote-unquote lucky. The current rebates are $12,000 total, $7,000 provincial, $5,000 federal, depending on the vehicle that you buy. How much did the rebates play into your calculations?
Yes, so we did calculate the rebates. We assumed we kind of looked at a national picture, which meant we looked at if the vehicle was eligible for the federal rebate of $5,000, and then we did sort of a weighted average, incorporating different provincial rebates based on population and whatnot. So the full $7,000 Quebec rebate wouldn't have been fully integrated into the analysis. It's sort of like a piece of that would be integrated. So if we were to do this on a Quebec-specific basis, then you would be seeing cost savings that are quite a bit higher.
Wow.
Probably about $5,000 higher over the course of that 8 years of driving.
How much driving are you factoring in? Like how many kilometers is someone putting on in a year in your methodology here?
We assume 20,000 kilometers of driving per year. That's sort of the Canadian average that's on the Government of Canada website. Now, of course, there are some people who drive much less than that. There's some people who drive much more. But the beauty with electric vehicles is the more you drive, the more you save compared to a gas car. So if you're driving a lot more, that means your cost savings are actually going to be racking up earlier, and it'll make the economic case for going electric even better because you're saving on that fuel and maintenance.
So let's get to the maintenance part of this as well, right? Because it can't just be the savings, gas versus plugging in for an EV. What are some of the other savings we're forgetting about if you buy an EV?
So another big one is maintenance. There are only 20 moving parts in an electric engine compared with nearly 2,000 in a gas car. So EVs are a lot simpler, and they end up breaking down much less frequently. You don't need to go to the repair shop as often. And then there's a number of routine maintenance repairs, routine maintenance needs that you don't really need when you drive an electric vehicle. For instance, you never need to think about an oil change again. Mm-hmm. And so, again, this ends up translating into a couple $100 in savings per year on maintenance when you go electric.
Okay, and Joanna, I guess this leads me to my next my next question about, there's a lot of interest in EVs. There's not a lot of inventory. It seems like people are on waiting lists here. Do you have any idea on is that situation only going to get worse as more and more people become aware of sort of the cost savings?
Great point. When we looked at how interested Canadians are in electric vehicles, that enthusiasm is high. Mm-hmm. One of the last polls that we ran showed that about 80% of Canadians are open to buying an EV. And a separate poll by KPMG that came out recently found that over 50% of Canadians say that they will never buy a gas-powered car again. So that's great. Well, but you're right. Good luck finding one in Canada that you can drive home today.
Joanna,
model.
Joanna, yeah. Sorry, your phone line was breaking up there. I do know that you said that this is crazy. This survey, 51% of Canadians say they will never buy a gas-powered vehicle again, and hopefully your connection has fixed itself. What was that last point you wanted to get to?
I was just saying, you're right, though. Good luck finding an EV that you can drive home today. Wait lists for popular models right now range from 6 to 18 months. So Canada definitely has an electric vehicle supply problem. Mm-hmm. Now, the good news is that the federal government just announced Canada's getting a national zero-emission vehicle mandate, which is going to require automakers to sell more and more EVs in the country. Quebec already has this policy in place, so in some ways Quebec is better off. But this policy is going to make Canada a destination for clean cars, and so will really motivate automakers to ramp up production of these clean cars that Canadians want.
Joanna, if I wanted to see this report, if I wanted to see the numbers that you crunched and the savings, that stuff, what's the best way to find it?
You can find it on our website, www.cleanenergycanada.org, and the report is called The True Cost.
The true cost. That's what Clean Energy Canada has looked at when buying an EV versus a gas car. Joanna Kyriazis on the line with us this morning. Joanna, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, Elias.
Joanna Kyriazis is Clean Energy Canada's Clean Transport Program Manager.